Here, in this line, NF expressed the actual cause of his emotional numbness. Hello guys, this is Nico from PSYCHOLOGIST and welcome to another video. Today we continue with the NF journey and coming up it's Paralyzed. We all know by now that NF talks deep mental health issues in his songs, and by the title I assume this won't be an exception. But before we begin with the video, I want to remind you that I'm giving a free consulting session. If you want to know how, just check the description down below. Alright, now let's go with NF. Alright.
All the words that leave my tongue feel like they came from someone else. I'm paralyzed. Where are my feelings? I no longer feel things. I know I should.
Okay, lots to talk about here. Okay, so judging on the way he's talking, the main point here to focus is the emotional numbness he's describing. In a lot of mental disorders, it can happen that in one point you may feel like, well, that you feel nothing. It's a little bit hard to explain if you haven't experienced it, but it's better described as not being able to feel the same way you used to. Like there is some sort of barrier that separates you from the emotionality of certain situations that you know is there. It feels like the world around you it's even more superficial than you thought it was, and you feel kind of disconnected from it. And that disconnection can cause this feel of being someone else, or that you're not the same that you were before, and that's why he's asking, where is the real me? But what causes this emotional numbness? Well, as I said before, it's common in some mental disorders like anxiety, PTSD, depression, and it's mainly caused by the acute levels of stress and nervousness you experience during the illness. And that's because the stress hormone can have a huge impact in your limbic system, and it's the main responsible for the process of emotion, as well as other areas in your brain. That can even be affected by the medications prescribed to treat those disorders. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of medications, but anyway, let's just continue with the video. Okay, let's see what else he has to say.
When did I become so cold?
Yeah, that's another way to describe it.
When did I become ashamed? Oh, where's the person that I know?
See, he doesn't recognize himself.
They must have left. They must have left with all of mine.
No, they didn't go away.
Where are my feelings? I no longer feel things. I know I should. I'm paralyzed. Where is the real me? I'm lost and it kills me inside. I'm paralyzed. I'm paralyzed. I'm scared to live, but I'm scared to die. And if life is pain, then I buried mine a long time ago, but it's still alive. And it's taking over me. Where am I? I wanna feel something. I'm numb inside, but I don't feel nothing. I wonder why.
You wonder why? Okay, let me pause here for a second because I want to pay attention to this. Here, in this line, NF expressed the actual cause of his emotional numbness. because when you try to bury your pain, then it can lead to bury other emotions as well. And that, guys, causes the emotional numbness. Have you watched the movie Inside Out, where the more mature memories have some mixed emotions? Well, that's the most basic example on why denial and other avoidance strategies don't work to deal with the pain. Because if you force yourself to forget or avoid one, then it will have repercussion on the other emotions. And emotions are critical in our development and well-being, as they provide us with feedback on how to perform in our environment, and also motivates and empower us to take action and make decisions. So there is no negative emotions. And that's why it's so important to have the resources and the tools to cope with trauma and stressful events, because this kind of maladaptive responses can lead to these situations. But don't worry, at the end I will give you some strategies on how to properly manage this. For the moment, just we'll continue with the video. It's your life, of course.
I wanna feel something, I'm numb inside, but I don't feel nothing, I wonder why. I'm in the race of life and time pass by. Look, I sit back and I watch it, hands in my pockets, waves come crashing over me, but I just watch them. I'm underwater, but I feel like I'm on top of it. I'm at the bottom, but I don't know what the problem is. I'm in a box, but I'm the one that locked me in. Suffocating and I'm running out of oxygen.
See, it's that barrier that I talked to you about. Okay, that was paralyzed, and now we know what that means. It's a reference to being emotionally numb, and as we now know, it can be caused by other mental disorders and lack of coping mechanisms to face trauma. That's why it's really common in PTSD cases, because facing such pain can be really tough, and your first response may be to try and shut down the pain. But we also know that that's a maladaptive response, and it can cause the emotional numbness. So what can we do to prevent it? Okay, so first answer, obviously go to therapy. Look, whether you have mental disorders or not, you have to seek treatment to this, because it can be mainly caused by your lack of coping mechanisms to face stressful events. But hey, that's not your fault. As I said in other videos, we are not well educated in terms of mental health. But if you don't know any coping mechanism other than avoidance and denial, then therapy will show you how to unpack the real and underlying cause of the problem. Because a really important thing for you to understand is that everyone is different and each case has to be treated differently. And what we do in therapy is to extract from the patient every single emotion they can describe. And if there's something they're not sure on how to do it, we try different techniques to identify those emotions. So then it comes the most important part of the process, because now you're facing the emotions that you try to hide in the first place. And now it's up to you, with the help of your therapist, to avoid those defensive patterns of coping that are invalidating the natural process of emotion. And as I said before, there are no negative emotions. Pain and sadness teach us a lot, and if we try to hide them, then we won't be able to develop and learn from them. And with techniques such as cognitive restructuring and mindfulness, among others, we are able to do it. So that wraps it up for today, guys. Remember, you have a free consultation with me if you follow the steps in the description down below. I will see you next time, and thanks for watching. Bye.